I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard NOC Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard NOC Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different
Welcome to Hard NOC Life. I'm Britney Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma. And live from California, it's Saturday night.
It is Saturday night.
I just like saying that whenever it is Saturday night, but I don't always have someone to say it to. Yeah, so like we're here and we're recording this on Saturday night just because that's how it worked out. And Keith is off probably doing some kind of dad stuff because he's a dad, and it's Father's Day. I think like interesting convergence of like holidays this weekend, right? It's Juneteenth. And it's also Father's Day. So hope you have a good one or both of those if you do those days. But yeah, keep us doing dad stuff. And by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be like just an ordinary Monday. So, but hopefully you had a good weekend. So, how goes it, Brittany?
Pretty good. I worked today. Now I've just kind of been home and waiting for us to start recording. That's pretty much been my day. Work was a little bit crazy, so I was glad to like sit for like an hour and then be like, okay, podcast time.
Oh, for real? I mean, right on. Because I was gonna ask because California sort of opened this week. It got to a higher stage of opening, and I was gonna ask, did you do anything? Any new activity related to our sort of opening up?
Not me. I'm still very much going to be, like, the person who's probably going to wear their mask for a while, even when I'm at work.
Sure.
So I haven't really, like, done anything different because I've worked every single day since Tuesday of this week, and I'm also working Father's Day, so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
6 days. 6 days this week.
So I should have said all that stuff about the holiday because you're working through both of those things. Pardon me.
I was scrubbing floors today, so happy Juneteenth, you know?
Okay. Oh, goodness.
It was kind of, we normally do floors anyways, but it got really bad because one of my coworkers accidentally spilled a whole jug of, like, sweet cream, and that was
Yikes.
Fun. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a sad loss of cream.
I know. But, yeah, that's been my day. But, you know, I have Swedish fish to make it better, so...
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Swedish fish are awesome. Yeah, I went to a bar at night for the first time in a year. I haven't been to any bar during any hour of the day for like a year, and that was pretty strange. And yeah, I'll say I'm not in a hurry to go back and do nightlife bar stuff again. I wanted to just like go through the ritual of it just to get over like my hang up of like, oh, when am I going to start this process again? So I went and like ordered one drink and hung around for a tiny bit and then just left my friends who had brought me there because there were a lot of people there. And it's not that I'm so like medically worried about everything. It was just honestly disorienting because I hadn't done it in a while, you know? Yeah. It was just weird being out at night and like, oh gosh, heck of people. And they all seemed dead set on having fun. Some wearing masks, some not. Kind of hard to get a read of the room. So that was interesting. So all that just to say, I'm glad for a while we'll still have stuff to entertain ourselves at home.
I know.
Hopefully for a good while we're all getting used to society reopening again. So for example, we'll start today, I guess, with talking about the new episode of Loki that came out, right?
Yes, episode 2 of Loki, which Keith was kind of like trying not to spoil episode 2 when he was talking about it last week since he was lucky and was one of the people who got to see the first 2 episodes. So I can't remember if I think he was kind of like still on the fence if he was into the show or not. Yeah. But for me, I'm all game. I was always going to be game just because it's Tom Hiddleston and I love him and he's so great as Loki. And I've really been enjoying this show. I think Owen Wilson is honestly just like, he's just so good in this.
Yeah, he's kind of delightful. I agree with you there. What else major impressions did you have of episode 2, the variant?
Well, since we're talking about it, we're going to spoil it.
We're spoiling all of it.
Yes, I was very surprised to see that Lady Loki is blonde. So I don't know now if it's the character that I've been gunning for, hoping that she's going to show up sometime in the MCU, who is actually Amora, aka the Enchantress, because she is blonde in the comics. And not saying that a Lady Loki can't be blonde, but I was still a little like, I don't know if I'm on board with this being actually Loki.
Right. I'm so glad you said that, because you brought it up last week, too, like when you were thinking that maybe the judge is secretly the Enchantress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is a cool theory. But then, yeah, so Lady Loki appears, and she's a blonde woman who is kind of the type that Enchantress is in the comics and how we might expect Enchantress to look. So I was thinking exactly the same. It was like, well, if she is Enchantress, well, I mean, of some form that kind of scans, or if she isn't, it would be weird because they've already got a blonde lady figure in the show, so it would kind of make sense if the Enchantress does show up that she won't be, in her traditional comics appearance. But yeah, I mean, so how about that reveal at the end?
It was done very well, because I think everyone was obviously expecting like another Tom Hiddleston at least to be introduced right now. And I think it's very cool when it's like, when, they remove their hood and it's a blonde lady.
Yeah, totally.
And I was just like, and then like my mind starts obviously doing the whole spiraling of, so is it a blonde lady Loki, or is she actually Amora the Enchantress pretending to be Loki? And like, because, see, I know her as always trying to do crazy and outlandish things to try to win, like, Thor's attention. So I'm just like, is she, like, trying?
Right.
That's her whole thing. Like, and I feel like she would be a really good villain if they add a little bit more than just her wanting to, like, win Thor's attention.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if they're, like, I don't know exactly, but it probably is Lady Loki. I don't know, it's just me hoping that I finally see the Enchantress, because I just think she's a fun character anyways. So
you would prefer that scenario? You would prefer if this character is revealed at the end, turns out to be some form of Amora the Enchantress?
In some ways, but also I'm still really like hoping that it actually still turns out to be Gugu Mbatha who's playing Ren, just because I think she would look so cool in that costume.
Oh, right on.
But I don't know, and also there's some in this episode too, the more we saw of her, I was like, I don't know if I quite trust her. We're supposed to, but I really don't trust her.
Yeah, there's something going on, right?
Yes.
They have sort of a tense office scene with Agent Mobus, and implies that there's like some bureaucratic wranglings going on that she's like, maybe not being fully forthcoming with.
Yes.
What do you think that could be?
That's why I'm like, so I don't know. There is also this, I've seen some people theorizing that the like Time Lord dudes are actually dead, the Timekeepers, that they're actually have been dead for a while, and she's aware of it. And she's, like, trying to uphold this image that, like, things are okay.
Okay.
But also, like... I'm like
the bosses are dead, we're just holding this ship together.
Yeah. But I'm like, or what if she really is Amora the Enchantress, and they are dead, and she's killed them, and she's trying to act like everything's all, copacetic and good, and... But I don't know. I really don't trust her. There's definitely something she's not telling Mobius, and I think he has like a little crush on her, and I'm just like,
Yeah, there's that too.
Yes.
They had a little dynamic going on in the first episode, right? On their very first scene together. And that's kind of cute, do you think?
I do. I think it is kind of interesting. I'm like, where's this gonna go? But,
But that would be pretty radical if the Timekeepers were actually no longer with us. That would suck for the timeline, you'd think. Maybe this is all just spiraling out of control with no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
But, I mean, one, like, dramatic focus that becomes clear in this episode is Loki seems pretty dead set on meeting these Timekeepers. Mm-hmm. Right? Which is a very Loki thing to do. He wants to meet the
bad guy.
Yeah. The ultimate power dudes, and probably wrest power from them.
Yes.
If they're there.
Exactly. Yeah. That is definitely his thing. But I also liked how much we could see, like, how Loki is very smart, and he was, the way that he was looking to figure out exactly where the variant was hiding, and him figuring that out, like, if there's apocalyptic events that are meant to happen in this one area where it's going to be wiped out, you can do whatever you want. Right, like, especially hiding out there and resting and all that, and then, like, you can leave just because it's not going to affect the timeline since it's going to be destroyed.
Right. Yeah. Did you track the math of that? Because I think it made sense. I just wasn't sure.
I got it because, I mean, it's just like, it's one of those, I think I always like to refer to Doctor Who.
Yeah, great.
Which is, it's like like this happening, like Pompeii is a fixed point in time. Like nothing that happens is going to stop Pompeii from being destroyed. Like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Pompeii is going to be destroyed always. And I think that's why it's these areas that are considered apocalypses where they can hide out in. It's like, no, this is always going to happen regardless of what timeline you have. This is a fixed point. It must always happen regardless. So I think that's what it's referring to. So you can pop up in Pompeii. You can pop up in, Asgard for Ragnarok right before and hang out and chill and be fine because nothing you do is going to affect that timeline anymore of that place because it's gone.
Right. You can chill and be fine because there's a world-shattering event happening. That's a good irony to me. Right. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. And it also suggests that they're going to spend some future episodes bopping around to various apocalyptic events, which...
And they're probably going to go back to Ragnarok.
Seems like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll probably drop in on Ragnarok again.
Yes.
And which would kind of lead us to, again, stop me if I'm getting this wrong, Loki would confront his future self who's closer to dying, right? Because the prime Loki we're following right now is still straight from Avengers 1.
Yes. Straight from Avengers 1, who has not had any actual character development, but they kind of try to, like, get him up to kind of the same, close to being in the same mental, emotional capacity as the Loki that we know in Endgame, with him actually seeing, like, how him and Thor started to have a better relationship and how he actually was starting to do the right thing and, showing him his mom died and then I think that I think this Loki thinks that Thor is dead when the ship blows up. I think he thinks...
Oh, right.
So now he thinks that everything he's done has actually caused Thor to die, which even with all his anger, that's never has been his intention, is to, like, kill him, so...
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that makes more sense. I didn't read that way. Because he is getting a little misty when he's reviewing all these videos, right?
Yes.
Or these files.
Yeah.
And not only just because, whoa, Asgard had a disaster, you're saying he could interpret it as maybe I caused that disaster and killed my own brother.
Yes.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I mean, because he knows that he faces Thanos, but he's probably thinking, like, everything I have done now, and things were getting better between me and Thor, and, and then he also had the scene where he sees his dad telling him, like, I love you, my sons. So, he, finally has earned the love of his dad from when he knows him and Thor in a better place, and then he thinks now that he is the downfall of Thor dying, because that's all he's left with. He doesn't know what happens after the, ship blows up. He doesn't know that Thor gets picked up by the Guardians and all that. He doesn't know that, so he thinks that that's it. Like, he caused the end of his brother. So I think now he's, like, trying to maybe figure out how to fix. I think he wants to fix that. I think he's going to try to figure out how to fix that moment.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, that's cool. And it's a great screenwriting trick because...
At least that's what I would have, like...
No, I really hope that is what it is. I hope you're, like, whatever, mind mirroring whoever wrote Loki, because it's one of those, like, dramatic irony things, right? Like, now he believes in a destiny, which is not, in fact, his destiny.
No.
But he's convinced himself that maybe it is, and it's informing his actions.
Yeah.
Erroneously, because as we all know, Thor survives and goes on to make a sequel.
Yeah.
But okay. But yeah, that could be his mindset at this moment in time. Wow. Okay, so time travel plots aren't totally stupid. They can add something.
Work. Like, my favorite show is Lost, and I know everyone talks about how they don't like all the time issues with Lost, but, like, it makes sense. And Lost is a show that, honestly, you have to watch more than once because of how detailed that show is. But, this is not let's have Brittany talk about Lost Hour, so let's not go down that road.
I know, we'll take will it take an hour or a day, or like I never watched close enough to understand the time travel loop idea.
So basically, it's if you travel into the past, you are not gonna affect the past because you were always supposed to travel back into the past. It was always meant to happen. So nothing you do is gonna change the course of time. Essentially, like, yeah, and it doesn't set off a branch reality like the Timekeeper stuff does have in Loki, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not quite getting the whole Timekeeper's version of things, because they seem really concerned with preserving a pure time stream and not having these branch events and not having a multiverse. But it just seems like when the Marvel Universe is so full of branching events and they're already time stream messing around in Endgame.
Well, it's gonna happen. That's the thing. I think we're just going to see it happen from the TVA side of it all falling apart, and because we know it's gonna happen because of Doctor Strange multiverse. Was it Madness of the Multiverse? We know it's gonna happen, at least for sure with Doctor Strange. However, the first movie we get, I think before that, is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, and we know that Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man. So I'm pretty sure, whatever happens in Loki is going to affect Spider-Man, because I think Peter's going to try to do something to fix, that people know that he is Spider-Man or what have you. And
oh, you're right.
Because, yes, remember, Far From Home.
Right, like that One More Day thing.
Yeah, I think he's going to try to, fix everything, and then him doing that is going to set off, I think, this thing where the timelines or the different realities converge, because there's no way they can't deny that they're basically doing a live-action Spider-Verse, because
totally.
That's what's happening, especially when Alfred Molina spilled the beans, so...
Yeah, and again, just to reiterate, anyone who denies they're in the movie, I say is just trying to preserve their secret identity and staying in character. I think they're all in the movie, and I think right.
I mean, and you don't want to get in trouble for breaking an NDA, so I'm pretty sure Alfred Molina got some kind of stuff for doing that. But
a tentacle on the wrist slap. Maybe.
Yeah, that I just thought it was so funny, and I don't know how people were shocked that what he said. I'm like, you guys didn't think that he was actually in the movie though?
Yeah. And let's be fair, Alfred Molina is an established actor, has been around a while. He doesn't give a hoot so much about this, our fan, concerns. He's just gonna say what he wants. I'm in this movie, and I think this happens.
He said, I'm in this movie, and we're picking up with my character where we left off in Spider-Man 2. That's what he said. So we know that there is some multiverse thing that's gonna happen, and I feel like the TVA is trying so hard to prevent these things from happening that it's gonna now, as we saw in the end of episode 2, there was tons of different branch realities happening, and I think they are going to keep trying to fix it, and it's just gonna time is gonna keep breaking, because I don't know, but it's gonna have to. It's because we're gonna have so many different stuff going on, and I'm kind of worried. I'm kind of wondering what they're doing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just because they mentioned Phil Coulson. And,
they did.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that show has been moved into the Legacy Marvel section on Disney Plus, which means it's all Marvel,
aka not canon,
not MCU canon stuff. So now it's over there. I'm just like, does that mean they're gonna somehow pop up and come from another universe? So in another universe, Phil Coulson actually didn't really die.
That would be really interesting. Did you follow Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Were you big into that? I watch it every now and then.
And so it's really hard for them to say that it's not canon, because Samuel Jackson's literally in 4 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Nick Fury. He's on the show. So is Lady Sif. There's even a couple smaller actors from the movies that pop up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. until they got to the point where they stopped trying to write the show around the movies. When they stopped doing that, they went off on their own little thing. But the first I want to say 3, maybe 4 seasons very much revolved around the MCU. So it's kind of hard for them to say that it's not canon, especially when you have Nick Fury showing up.
I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is an especially weird place, because as you say, it was pretty much it was sort of set up to kind of parallel the movie action, and then they branched literally and kind of backed off from that. But it wouldn't take too much, universe reinventing to bring them back. But I thought it was more of a question of whether there was fan love for that area of the universe. Like me, I like about half the characters in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and pretty good, but there were a lot of them at one point, and I wasn't so into half of them. So, I mean, what was the Henry Simmons character name? I don't know. I like that.
He was really good. Oh my
guy.
god, what's his name? I can't remember, but a lot of people are saying that he would be a better Captain America than Anthony Mackie.
Oh, that's a mean one. I mean, he is huger, but I don't know if that makes him better.
I think they mean as a person, because at least, not to rag on Anthony Mackie, but I guess because people are starting to find out that he's actually
What did Anthony Mackie do?
He's very conservative in real life, and I think people are starting to realize that. And
oh, okay. All right.
So now there's been people like, oh, this guy would have been a better Captain America. So there's some.
Yeah. I've always had a thing for Anthony Mackie. I really like him. I mean, I'm basically straight, and they're like some dudes who do it for me, and Anthony Mackie has always been one of those guys. I don't know if that was a lot of information to say. I just thought I would say it.
It's fine, and I think he's a really good actor. He's one of those actors that I love him as an actor, but person not so much, and I can separate. He's lucky I'm still in a place where I can separate him from his character, because if not, then, if he gets to a point where it's egregious, then, I'm going to be like, sorry. Sorry, Sam Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, it would be too weird to try to switch that up now. But it is worth saying that Henry Simmons is also a good actor, and and I like being nominated this year, and it's sort of like Quake. There are sort of mixed feelings on Quake. But... So, okay, yeah. No, to circle back. I like this theorizing about what's probably going to happen, this extrapolating with Britney. This is a fun Saturday night activity. Because I think you're totally right. That's probably how the multiverse breaks again, is Spider-Man doing some version of trying to retcon his own identity reveal.
Yeah.
And like a dope, he somehow manages to break some part of the multiverse and splits...
And brings the other two Spider-Men that we know of into the fold. People are always going to hate me for this, but I'm more looking forward to seeing Andrew Garfield return than Tobey Maguire.
Oh, I'm with you there, dude.
Yeah, it's not that Tobey isn't a bad Spider-Man. I just feel like, I don't know how to say this without sounding mean. But
Go for it. I'm about to say something meaner if it's not the thing you're about to say.
I feel like they leaned over too much into the stereotypical nerd thing with Peter Parker, and I think that it's he's a nerd, but he's not I think in the comics he's not a nerd to the extent that they make him in the Sam Raimi movies, and I just feel like it's disingenuous to the actual Peter, and they make him a kind of a bumbling idiot, in my opinion.
Kind of, they do.
And and then I feel like a lot of people don't like Andrew Garfield, especially straight white men particularly don't like Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker / Spider-Man, because Andrew Garfield is quote unquote the pretty boy of the day, and I feel like they can't relate to that, and they don't find him but I'm just Peter Parker was never drawn to look like Tobey Maguire. He does look closer to Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland, so I don't know, but it's very interesting to see how many people rag on him for especially Andrew for being a very handsome dude. Yeah,
I mean, I am also I like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man better than Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and we've talked about it on this podcast before. We're talking about it now. We'll talk about it for many hours in the future. But again, part of it, I think people have sentimental feeling for those movies, the Sam Raimi movies, because they were the first wave of Spider-Man movies, and I think that's where they get what I would consider a disproportionate love for Tobey Maguire. Just because it's sort of a fuzzy love for a snack you liked when you were a kid that you might not like anymore.
Yeah.
But I actually thought the Mark Webb movies were better movies, but people really hate on those movies.
I know. I think
I still haven't quite figured out why.
I think that they're honestly pretty decent movies, especially as the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, I think, is a really great and fun movie. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it is, like nostalgia for maybe Tobey Maguire. And I like Tobey Maguire in a lot of other things that I've seen him in. But yeah, his Peter Parker just does not do it for me.
Yeah, I think he is a good actor, but he has a whiny voice. I'm sorry, I think this
probably
leaning into the nerd thing. I think he like magnifies his whiny voice, like he was directed to sound as much like a sort of meek nerd as you can. And he was like, "Okay, Sam,
yeah,
well, I'll just say everything like this," and to the point where like other people were imitating and making fun of like Spider-Man has that kind of voice, and that really bugged me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also have sentimental love for those movies, as many
I
people
do
do, because it was
too.
like, but I thought they like evolved with the next wave with the Andrew Garfield thing, and other people think they didn't evolve, like they took a step back. So I think that's going to be interesting to play out, especially given a multiverse of factors, like the Sam Raimi artistic viewpoint is coming back with directing the Doctor Strange movie, so we'll see how that goes over. But I mean, before that, of course, the next Spider-Man movie is coming back, in which, in theory, all those different versions of Spider-Man will converge, or at least be mentioned. Good gosh. Yeah, really, now I can't wait for that one even more than others. And yeah, so like, for for you non-total Spider-Man comics nerd people, there was that time when, in the comics, when Spider-Man has his identity revealed, and it went really bad for him, and I guess Aunt May was gonna die, and so he made a literal deal with the devil, Mephisto, and
they gotta bring Mephisto in. I'm tired of this allusions to him, and alluding to, especially in the first episode of Loki. They she pointed to a painting of like the little girl or little boy in the first episode when Mobius asks who did this, and they pointed to the painting of the devil, and it was like the devil did it. So it's just
did look like Mephisto.
So I'm like, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that Mephisto's not involved? Like, I know that there's fans who are tired of hearing about Mephisto, but like, he just makes sense to show up with what they're trying to do.
Okay, I understand that people are interested in seeing Mephisto. I still don't quite understand why. Can you explain to me why?
Well, because he, as you know, can mess with reality and illusions, and he's also kind of like a trickster, but he's also like literally like the devil.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for him to like show up in these storylines, especially with WandaVision, because we're like, well, who's really like creating this reality? Is it her or is it someone else? Because we were the way that they marketed that show, it made a lot of people think that Wanda wasn't fully in control of that. So a lot of people went, well, logically, the villain who could do that would be Mephisto. And they're like, and then he would tie into like everything going on with Doctor Strange and like all of that, because Doctor Strange deals with a lot of demons and stuff in his comics.
Sure.
That we have not yet really seen too much in the MCU. So I think there's a lot of like, they are trying to lead towards that, especially with Blade and like rumors of Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
You know, so I think like everyone thinks they're heading in that direction of all that kind of stuff. So I think that's where it's all of it is like, well, all of this makes sense on paper if they all like show up. So where's Mephisto?
It does, yeah. And certainly that whole Darkhold bit in WandaVision strongly suggests that they were going to deeply go into the mystical, arena of things. But like, I think they're not going to have Mephisto just because he is the devil and they'll be worried about upsetting the Christians. I mean, honestly,
so
that's the reason why I think all this hope is in vain. And I mean, now if some like hardcore Christian Marvel fans would speak up and be like, no, we really want to see Mephisto in the Marvel movie, I don't know. But I think there'll be some cultural conflict there that I don't think it's going to be Mephisto.
Yeah.
But could be wrong, have been wrong before. But anyway, so at one point, Spider-Man made a deal with the devil to retcon it so that people didn't know his identity and started, this controversially sort of silly, I mean, I think it was a silly comics storyline called One More Day, when he just went back and haven't married Mary Jane. I'm just a kid starting out again, and no one knows who I am. But okay, so something like that happened, and how did we get here? We've been tooling around all the Marvel universe
because we were talking about Loki, and timelines and then how everything connects.
Right, yeah. Okay, so everything connects, and he's gonna... Well, I mean, I like the idea that he's on a mission to
Meet the timekeepers.
to meet the timekeepers, in addition to his, secondary mission of being sad that he thinks he's killed Thor. I think those are two great conflicting ideas. But yeah, but he does seem kind of sad, like he wants to meet the timekeepers. So I'd be very fascinated if that becomes a big thrust in the upcoming episodes, because, I mean, he... comically keeps referring to them as space lizards, which is great. But we don't really know they're lizards. We know they look kind of like big, stone-faced, godlike guys.
Yeah.
And probably one of them is Kang the Conqueror, but I'm wondering if they're actually going to try to visualize that grand scale of character in this series.
I mean, could. There's been rumors that he's going to show up, and he is going to be in Ant-Man and the Wasp in the Quantum Realm, I think is what that movie's called. So
Quantumania, I think.
Quantumania, okay.
Both of those are equally ridiculous names. Cool.
But we do know that Jonathan Majors is playing Kang the Conqueror, which he's a really great actor. If you have not watched him in like anything that he's done, which he's actually worked with the TVA lady. Is she B15 or something like that? Is that her name?
Oh, okay.
The dark skinned, like the more heavier set lady on the show.
Yeah. I mean, I know which character you're talking about.
She was also they were both on Lovecraft Country together.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Majors and her. But yeah, I'm very curious to where it's going. Episode 3 is going to be our halfway mark. Episode 3 is actually written by Bisha K. Ali.
Something like that.
Yes.
Sorry, we were going to get your name wrong, but we just looked it up. But Bisha Ali.
Bisha Ali, yes, who is actually the showrunner for Miss Marvel.
Yeah, how about that? I was surprised. I'm glad you pointed it out before the show. She's writing episode 3 of Miss Marvel.
Episode 3 of Loki.
She's writing episode 3 of Loki. I switched them.
Yes.
She's writing most of Miss Marvel. It looks like.
Yes.
But yeah, and I was under the mistaken impression that like we would start to see her work with Miss Marvel, but she's credited with the next episode. So what do you think about that? Does that mean Miss Marvel will show up? Probably not. But
there isn't there like in the earlier Miss Marvel comics when G. Willow Wilson was writing Miss Marvel / Kamala Khan that Loki actually there's like a plot of Loki showing up and kind of like being interested in her and she's like, I'm a teenager. I'm pretty sure she has a moment where she's like, I'm a teenager. I think that was that comic I was reading, or I made it up in my mind.
That's dicey,
but
very, very on brand for Loki.
But like, I can't remember.
And they're both shapeshifters. So,
I don't remember why he was in New Jersey. It was such like a weird, like, I'm like, why is Loki here? I think it was the Miss Marvel. I want to say someone knows. Like, let me know if I'm on the right park with this. But I wouldn't be surprised if like, they somehow pop up in New Jersey and they bump into, and we maybe get introduced to Kamala a little bit.
Oh, that would be such a cool, like, passing in the night moment, because we're all so excited to see Kamala Khan
Me too.
/ Miss Marvel in some form. Yeah, that's...
But either way, I'm just looking forward to what she's going to bring to the MCU, so that should be a fun episode, and that also, there's a new person writing the Miss Marvel comics.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's Samira Ahmed, who I think she's also Pakistani, and so she will be writing Miss Marvel, which, G. Willow Wilson, I don't know her exact race. I don't want to, like, say she's white for sure, and she's actually not. I know she's Muslim, but she could be white or white passing. A white passing person of color, but she is, it's nice to see that an actual, like, woman who is the same, ethnicity as Kamala, like, spearheading her run now. Yeah,
so they're starting a new comic series, and it's got a new writer. And, yeah, it's like, to the TV show for a second, I was gonna say, like, it's sort of a nice moment on the representation news, Jill, because it was a nice story that I read about how they found Bisha Ali to write the Miss Marvel series, because I think they were looking around for someone who specifically had a lot of Pakistani experience and was a woman and all these things, and she's also a stand-up comic and these other things, but she was relatively unknown. They sort of had to find her and take advantage of her relevant experience. But I think it's also good to show that she's not going to be automatically pigeonholed as just for that. you know, like she can branch out,
unless
so to speak.
They were like already planning to bring in Miss Marvel in the show just because like it makes sense for whatever reason they thought of. And they're like, let's also bring in the writer, so she is writing episode 3 because it introduces Kamala. Like, that could be...
That would be cool, too. And that's a win-win.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm just really excited. Because that was one of the first, like, comic series that I actually, like, bought and, like, when it was first airing. Like, the creation of her character. Like, I read the first, I want to say, like, 15, 16... issues of that like first initial run of Miss Marvel, so like it's nice to have like been there from when her character started. I'm really behind on anything current. I think the last thing I remember reading was like her friend Bruno had like got a girlfriend, and I think Kamala was kind of like maybe a little jealous. I don't know, but it was so long ago. Like that was like the last kind of thing that I remember reading.
Maybe a little jelly. Yeah, and again, I mean, by now she's been all over the place. She's had all sorts of storylines. I mean, I remember she was in a major storyline last year where all the, what was it called? Outlawed, where, like, all the young superheroes were outlawed because they were like, we can't have these... did you follow this one at all? I read, like, one issue of it. They're like, we can't have, like, little kids going around as superheroes. That's weird. And she was, like, severely injured, and that was what caused this, you know, new legislation that became a sort of Marvel Civil War Part 3 thing. That just to say, there have been a lot of different Miss Marvel comic storylines, and they're starting another series with her. So, again, and that's fine. You know, we sometimes, we act a little snarky because, you know, comic series now, like, tend to, they might go 20 issues, and then they're gonna restart with another one at number 1, and, like, I don't know. I used to think that was, like, weird, like, and I missed, like, the old numbering system in comics that got all the way to issue 500. But now I'm just like, okay, that's the trend of the time. Or just go for it and, you know, bring a new writer, fresh start, new interpretation. I mean, those things are good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how much stuff is selling too now. And I'm gonna be honest, for me, it's hard to keep up with, like, buying physical comics, which I prefer over, like, reading stuff on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah. And
that's why I, like, said I bought the actual physical copy of the Eternals run that I started reading on Marvel Unlimited, because I was like, no, I'm rather just physically read it than, like, keep having to, because I've been reading it on my phone. And I don't know, reading the comics on my phone is not as fun.
Sure. I mean, would it even make a difference if you use the tablet, or is it just the gadget?
I think it's the gadget. I think there's certain things that I'm okay with, like, reading on my phone or, like, digitally, but I think when it comes to books and comics, I just prefer physically having the media with me. Like, and that's why I know, like, audio, even though I can listen to podcasts, I for some reason cannot listen to audiobooks, because I definitely start, like, zoning out, and then I'm like, wait, you know, like, I would have to constantly rewind it, so I don't think audiobooks are for me.
Right. Oh, no, I get you. I mean, that's true blue, man. That's honorable. I have, you know, crossed over and made my peace with reading comics off the tablets, but, you know, you do miss the tactile experience.
And I want to make it clear, I have nothing wrong with people who prefer, like, digital reading or, you know, audio listening to your books. That's fine. That if whatever way works for you, as long as you are, like, you know, absorbing the stories and, like, actually enjoying it. That's where I stand. If you're not fully listening to it when you're, like, doing the listening, then why are you listening to it? Just read it. But, you know, if it works for you, awesome.
On a sheerly organizational level, I like the Marvel Unlimited, like, because you can look at the dates and see, like, the order that things come in.
It's so
which is harder with physical comics, I gotta say. Sometimes they're just in a pile and you don't know, like, what year is what story. Yeah,
exactly. Like, how I bought all those, like, old school Spider-Woman comics, I had to, like, really look at them and, like, figure out which goes where. But if I was reading on Marvel Unlimited, you know, it would, like, have it for me. So.
Yeah. I mean, so there's advantages to both things.
Oh, no, I agree with that for sure.
Is there anything else we want to talk about Loki this episode? Just to circle back to where we started.
Well, like, I am so far, like I've said, I'm very much on board with this show. There's lots of actors in the show that I have liked before seeing them in Marvel stuff. And, like, Owen Wilson, for example. And Guga's like one of my favorite actresses, actually. So I was really excited that she joined the MCU. So I'm really on board with the show. I'm very excited to see what they're do with her character, because a part of me still feels like she might be actually the villain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I hope that maybe this means Loki is coming back to the other timeline and our sacred timeline, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
One part I really liked about this episode I thought it was just funnier and looser in general.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's a good, like I like some of the writing, directing choices, and the chemistry between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston is getting kind of juicy. And I like the part where Loki got really nitpicky about the powers. You know the part earlier when they're like listing his powers, and he goes like, "Oh no, actually, illusion, projection, and
this are two different things."
And like he goes on to define it because in this very nerdy way, and just also because I'm like the nerd who reads like the files and like the technical specs of each hero, like in the Marvel Handbook, or whatever, and they actually list their powers like in an RPG kind of way, like he has this kind of energy projection versus that kind of image manipulation. So I thought that was kind of a nice, like, nerdy superhero lore moment. Like, I dream of a bit in some episode where they actually start discussing strength levels for real. Like, because it's actually written down, you know, in the old Marvel Handbook of the Universe, like, Spider-Man can lift so many tons. He can lift 10 tons, and Rogue can lift 50 tons.
Yeah,
and,
I think, like, it said Spider-Woman can lift, like, 5 tons or something like that. So I was like, yeah.
And it's just changed. They made Spider-Man stronger over the years, and then I think they like bumped up Spider-Woman's stats too. But like I think it would be funny if they got into that actual kind of nitpicky conversation. So I enjoyed that part a lot.
Yeah, and I also really like a scene with Loki and Miss Minutes, actually.
Yeah.
And he's asking her if
she's such a cute character.
I know, he's asking her if she's like an AI or a recording. She's like, well, I'm sort of both, or however her little accent is. And like, it was just such a funny moment. He kept messing with her, and she was like, you're misbehaving, and she jumped into the like TV thing. That was so cute. Yeah,
totally. Oh gosh, that old school computer thing. And that was really funny and very Loki-ish to just kind of like try to swat her. Yeah, that stuff is all working. So I have a good feeling about that. So Brittany,
yes,
in the course of your Hiddle stalking, did you happen upon that time he was in a stage play with Daredevil?
I know he was, and that was really funny. One of the actresses who's in that play, I can't remember her name, but she was also on a couple episodes of Misfits, which I love that show.
Oh, no way. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know her name.
The British black lady?
She's black. She's mixed.
Okay.
I don't remember her name, but she's been announced as, like, the villain for the Marvels movie, which is, you know, the movie with Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and really? Monica Rambeau. So she has been cast as the villain. We don't know who she's playing in the Marvels. And it's so funny because I don't know if you remember when, like, they were doing but I think because that cast did it in, like, New York for a little bit too. I think they moved to New York for a little bit, and there's a picture of them out, like, for Halloween, and she's wearing a Captain Marvel Halloween costume. And then Tom is wearing Daredevil, and then Charlie is dressed up as Loki.
Oh, wow.
Like,
that is...
So it's so funny that now she is in them. I can't remember her name.
Oh, we'll find it. But the point is that person is also in the Marvel Universe now.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's good. And again, like, you know, in the industry business of casting, sometimes that's how it works. You know, the casting directors look at who's in big Broadway plays. I mean, that's just something they do.
Yeah.
If you're an actor around New York, you control them and send little messages, especially if you happen to be in a play with two actors who are well known for these other series. So that's fucking awesome. Yeah, I mean, just to recap, I was surprised to find out that they were in Harold Pinter's play Betrayal, which was in London for a time and came over to New York because it was such a big hit.
I'm looking her up. Her name is Zawe Ashton. So it's spelled Zawe.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, she was on an episode of Misfits. I'm trying to remember. She's the one who I think she kind of liked. What's his name's character? Is it Nathan? The one with the curly hair?
I don't know.
Irish boy. She like has a crush on his character, and she's like running track or something there. But like her dad or something is like keeps trying to kill him. because he's like overly protective of her. Like she's that.
It's fascinating, but it's outside my knowledge. Please go on.
She's that girl in that episode. Just yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes, her character's name was Jessica. She was on that one episode, but I've seen like the first 2 seasons of Misfits so many times that anyone who was on the first 2 seasons, that I'm like, oh, they were on Misfits.
Oh, right on.
So yeah, she was on that episode.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was Nathan was the name of the character, or was it not Nathan?
I really don't know what you're talking about.
You didn't watch Misfits?
It's fine. I don't know.
What?
What?
So it's basically.
Please summarize.
So it's like a group. So it's a group of. I literally went to the IMDb page and it says a group of young offenders doing community service get struck by lightning during a storm and begin to develop superpowers.
Okay, wait. Okay, now I remember someone telling me this is the best show ever. I still haven't watched it. Please
It's
continue.
really, really, really great show.
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Sheehan played Nathan, so that was right.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
You're piecing together the whole multiverse, including
yes.
Umbrella Academy and the Misfits. It gets wider and wider
Well,
this way.
yeah. So Robert Sheehan is on the first couple seasons of Misfits, and so his character is the one that the lady who's now going to be a villain in the Marvels is. They were like kind of into each other, but like her dad kept trying to kill him, but his power, which is a spoiler, sorry, his power is actually he's immortal, so you can't kill him. So he keeps coming back to life, and the dad like keeps
sucks to try and kill that guy.
The dad keeps trying to kill him, and it's just like it's a crazy episode. The show's really fun.
No.
It's basically like British people doing their take on like, you know, how like I guess they think Americans are obsessed with superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
So and this was before like MCU was a big thing. So
Okay, good. Yeah, I knew it was a little older, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting that on the
So
watch list.
It's
Okay.
very fun. You'll probably recognize a lot of those actors that are on the show.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I was just tickled to learn all that.
Sorry.
Because I just learned a lot right there.
There's probably some people who are like, oh, this girl's crazy.
No. You've got every link in the chain counts. And, you know, as sooner or later, every single human is going to be part of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'm going to be there
I'm
one
saying
day.
that optimistically, yeah. So as long as we keep expressing how this, you know, interconnectedness works, hopefully we'll bring that destiny to pass for our own selves.
Mm-hmm.
I just brought it up in the first case because I was still thinking how cool it would be to see like a stage play whenever that's going to happen again. But again, stage play with the cast like that, because I have gone back and started and watching Daredevil again just because I freaking love that show.
Charlie is one of those people who's like perfectly cast.
He's so good. Speaking of guys who do it for me also, but not just that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so good. He's like, and like that dude is just sexy. Daredevil is like sexy all throughout. Like it's part of the style.
I think it's just part of the character. Like there's just something about him that is just sexy. And then like Charlie Cox was just like, I don't know, he really got in good shape for that because his butt is just really nice.
Yeah.
So
yeah, his butt's great. He looks like superhero, and like not even like so buffed out it's ridiculous, but just like a fit guy who could box.
Yeah.
And but he also does the, you know, the mannerisms of being a blind person, kind of like, well, and you know, it's kind of adorably, you know, because his eyes cast around, and I'm just saying, and the whole aesthetic of the show is just like, you know, night and tight outfits, and you know, it's a little like, I mean, I was just gonna bring that to say like what I like in rewatching that show is that it was adult, not just for the sake of like having a hard R rating, because you know some people like some section of fandom is really like obsessed with let's have a hard R rating because it's true the comics are R, but I think those people like want to see people's heads getting blown off for like excessive sex or something. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's kind of like let's get like extreme with this.
Yeah.
But that's not like really like adult content. What was nice, in contrast with the Disney Plus shows, is the Netflix shows. Like, they just had a drink once in a while. They had some adult kind of sexy storylines, but not ridiculous ones. And yeah, sometimes you got hit really hard and some blood comes out, and it made it grounded in reality, you know?
Yes, except for Iron Fist.
Except for Iron Fist, yes. Notable exception. Iron Fist still sucked from whatever.
Ugh.
For so many reasons.
That show will always make me mad.
But it's, and deservedly so, I'm right with you. That was a weird case of like 3 out of 4 is really good, but 4 was noticeably bad. But anyway,
I don't know, and I'm just like, even if they kept him, even with keeping him white, I feel like there was better white actors that could have played the role, and that's what I think bothers me too, is like, it just felt like the most laziest casting.
Yeah. It was just because they looked at who's in Game of Thrones. That's what problem is, like, Game of Thrones is like this giant, like, stem cell, like, farm for hot actors. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. I'm sorry, I know, like, you like Game of Thrones more than I do.
I like the books more than I actually. I've only read 4 books, but I like the 4 books that I've read more than I like the show. Which when I first saw season 1, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read the books, and then I read all the books. And I'm like, oh, these are so good, and I hope because the first book and the first season, they're pretty much very they're pretty much very much the same thing. Like, there is nothing that is. The only thing that's different is, like I said, they aged up all the kids on the show, because in the books, they're all really young. So that's the only, difference between... Sure. Those are the only differences between the first book and the first season. Other than that, everything is pretty much, word for word, same story. It's really a great, first season, great first book. And then season 2 is when they start really diverting from what's happening in the books. And then, by the time you get to where the show ended, it's just, this weird cluster of
yeah, a clusterfuck.
And
almost say
they cut a lot of storylines. Like, Robb Stark's wife is, from what I read, she was still alive in the 4th book. She did not die at the Red Wedding. They didn't bring her because they were smarter than that, and they were like, that would add insult to injury to bring her, so let's not bring her. So, she was not there in the books when it happened, and then they're all, trying to be like, well, maybe it's not Robb Stark's baby, so if it doesn't come out looking like Robb Stark, we don't have to worry about, stuff going on with Winterfell anymore. That kid's not the heir. That's literally, a major, plot. Not a major plot, but it's a big enough plot to be like, why did you cut that out? Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah, and Robb is only, 14 in the books, too, so it just changes a lot of, I think... It changes how exactly messed up that moment is in the books. He's 14, 15, and they do what they do to him, and they do in the books also cut off his head and put his head on his wolf's body, and then his wolf's head on his body. They actually do that, and they do that to a 15-year-old, boy's body. That's so horrible. It's just so horrible.
So it's already pretty bad, but doing a 15-year-old would be
That's why, yes, it's good they changed things
crazy, yes.
For that, but at the same time, I'm just that whole, I don't know, there's a couple of things they left out, and, they left out that Catelyn Stark comes back from the dead, and she changes her name to Lady Stoneheart, and is actually going out and killing different little, Lannisters and, people who helped with the Red Wedding. That's another plot line they left out. That would have been cool to see a zombie Catelyn Stark. But, I guess I'm the only one who thinks that was cool.
I don't know if you're alone there. I don't know if you're the only one. I don't really know what you're talking about, but I'm glad to have learned all this again. It's been very educational.
Well, because when she dies when they both die at the Red Wedding, the one knight who's also, into the Fire Lord dude or whatever, I can't remember his name, he does the ritual thing to bring Catelyn Stark back, and it's in the epilogue of book 3. So he brings her back, and she can't properly talk because of how deep they cut her throat. But it's weird, they kind of did this thing to her throat where she actually speaks out from her throat, so her throat sounds more froggy and gross and scary, and they're what do you want to do with your second chance? And she's like, revenge, and all scary and stuff,
That was pretty scary. Yeah, so speaking of that kind of over-the-top violence, I was going to say, because, that's one thing I'm still concerned with watching the Disney Plus shows, is, I do feel they're still, under the Disney standards,
of course,
to some degree, that they can't go quite and have these adult themes and concerns. I'm just saying, you don't have to have it with, people blowing their heads off, or, HBO level people, heads on zombie bodies, or whatever you were just so helpfully talking about. But it was all awesome. It's good to know. But that's HBO.
Yeah.
And it's not Disney. So I'm really wondering if they can maintain that, if they're gonna try to maintain that for all future Marvel shows.
They can, because you were like me and also watching Disney Plus's show Big Shot, it's with John Stamos.
Right.
He's
John
a
Stamos.
basketball coach, and he's coaching like an all girls high school private school team for basketball. But there's some like adult stuff that they have in, not too over the top, but like there's also a storyline where one of the girls has a crush on another girl, and like they kiss on an episode. Sorry to spoil it for people, but so I'm just like, I'm like, Disney's being very like picky and choosy about where they let certain storylines happen, and not saying that like there's something wrong with like, you know, teenage girls kissing if they have genuine feelings for it or whatever, but like it's just very interesting to me that it's like Marvel, they're gonna try to shy away from it, but this other show that's lesser probably known, they're okay with it happening there, you know. That's kind of interesting to me.
That seems like a distinct style guide choice so far. Yeah, I am in favor of more going for more the Netflix flavor, more those standards of adultish stuff happening.
Yeah, and I mean, in that scene, I want to make clear it's not like an adult scene, but it's just the fact that Disney actually had a same-sex kiss happen between, like, you know, like, just the fact that it happened on that show.
Yeah,
like
a little adventurous for Disney.
Yes, so I'm just like,
as they've so far established their lane.
Yeah, so I'm like, you could do that with the Marvel stuff, too. Like, you don't have to...
Yeah, just regulate to the one John Stamos show that your family knows about and I've never heard of.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Right on. So we're gonna see what happens there, and then all the upcoming MCU Disney Plus shows. And I guess we'll start to wrap it up there, unless you have any further rants on Loki episode 2 specifically. Or, I mean, not to, like, you know, tell you what to do. You can rant about whatever you want.
I go off on tangents all the time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just such a Gemini. Like, my brain goes everywhere. I'm like, wait, this connects to this, and this connects to this, and boom, 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 boom. See, me and Loki would get along. Just saying.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, multiple identities. Fluid forms. But just don't get the illusion projection and the self-replicating powers confused, because those are
they're very two different things.
Entirely separate balls of wax. So maybe I'll ask, you know, was anything else nerd popping for you this week?
Yes, well, it's just a rumor, but it's nerd popping for me because it's a character I really like. So if you are familiar with the Clone Wars, the animated series, there's a character, Barriss, who is a Jedi youngling, you could say, and she is friends with Ahsoka in the show, and she has a very cool storyline where she kind of sees that where the Jedi are heading is not a good place, and that they are turning into something that they really aren't supposed to be, which, as we know, that's what happens. And she does something a little crazy to, like, try to stop the Jedi that ends up kind of hurting people, but she shouldn't have done. And it turns into this whole thing where, like, it basically ends with Ahsoka being, like, deciding to leave the Jedi. If you all are aware of that storyline, that's kind of what happens. And so the rumors are Barriss is going to be on the live-action Ahsoka show. So I know that some people have a way how they feel about Rosario Dawson, which is 100% understandable, but I'm really excited to see Barriss. So I'm like, they got me.
Right on. Okay.
They got me. I'll be tuning in.
But you're saying it's not. It's an idea. It's not like confirmed.
It's
yet?
not confirmed, but it makes sense because I mean, Barriss was pretty much like she was forced to, like, I think she went to prison and was also, like, forced to basically leave the Jedi Order. So because of that, with Order 66 happening, you know, she would have not been killed because she wasn't a Jedi anymore. So it would make sense for Barriss to show up on Ahsoka's show, which Ahsoka's show is going to be about her trying to find Ezra Bridger, who is the character we are introduced to on the show Rebels, if you watch Rebels.
Yeah, right.
So that's what her show is supposed to be about. She's trying to find Ezra Bridger and Thrawn.
Okay.
Yeah, so
great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. Let's hope that happens. The nerd popping thing that I just wanted to mention was, just so we can talk about Andrew Garfield again, and because we were talking about musicals so much last week, did you catch the trailer for Tick Tick Boom?
No. Do
you know what that is?
Is it the one where he if I watched the trailer, I watched it without sound, and it's like he meets a girl off of, like, social media and they're trying to, like, up her social media game or something like that?
Oh, that might be something different.
Okay, then.
Tick Tick Boom is a movie that's upcoming that will be Lin-Manuel Miranda's film directing debut. I mean, his first time directing a feature film.
Interesting.
And it also seems to be a musical somewhat based on the life or story about Jonathan Larson, who's the guy who wrote Rent,
yes,
and passed away. So very much in the New York musical theater world, and happens to star Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
And it seems Alexandra Shipp. So Spider-Man and Storm are in the same musical movie.
We don't like Alexandria Shipp.
We don't like Alexandra Shipp. I thought she was fine, but what do we?
No, it's just
not like her for some reason.
How do I say this? She's one of those. So she's one of those mixed people, black mixed race people who give other black mixed race people a bad name.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, she says some very horribly colorist stuff and try to backtrack and be like, but I'm black too, and it was just very it was very bad, and literally she is the reason why, like, the things that she did is the reason why some people who are full black do not like us who are half black, because then they think we think and say things like that, and it was just like, yeah, so I'm not really
that's serious.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, no, well, yeah, I don't like Alexandria Shipp.
Yeah,
she gives me a bad name.
Yeah, no, because that stuff is real.
Yeah.
So that's something I just
sorry to ruin that
about.
For you.
No, that's okay.
But Andrew Garfield
don't have a big opinion on that. Just noting again the connection, not the full background of the connection. And anyway,
but Andrew Garfield,
but also mainly, Andrew Garfield.
He's great.
But definitely Spider-Man's in it, and it's coming out sometime later this year.
There's a trailer for a movie that I'm pretty sure is Andrew Garfield, where he plays like a social media like influencer guy, and he meets some girl and he's trying to help her like be like cool or whatever. But I watched it without any sound on, so
that's probably a totally different movie.
Two different movies, but
I mean, it wasn't The Social Network when he appeared as one of the Facebook guys.
So, but I've never seen that movie because because
you've loved it?
No, because I remember seeing like the trailer, and I normally like Jesse Eisenberg, right? But like I could not stand the way his voice or his mannerisms were in that trailer, that I'm like, I am not gonna enjoy this movie because he's gonna bother the hell out of me this whole movie, which I understand is kind of like the point of the way he's like written, and he's, that's probably how Mark is, but I'm like, I'm not gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna be like pissed off this whole movie because he's annoying me. So I've never seen that movie.
No, fair enough. You didn't miss a huge amount, I'll say. It was just a movie where he and Andrew Garfield are at them. But yeah, you didn't miss a lot there. Interesting movie, not the greatest movie ever. Okay. So great. So we covered a lot of ground there. I would say, Brittany, would you like to tell people how to find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can follow me at Hi Brittany Monet on Twitter and Instagram. As I've talked about, used to do the Black Lightning podcast, which is officially wrapped up. We put out our last episode, and in a couple weeks the social media will start changing over to at Naomi Podcasts. And when we are going to do an episode of Naomi, I'm not sure, but that is the podcast I will be doing outside of this podcast, basically going forward. So that's all.
Okay, good. We're looking forward to that. And I'm Dominic Ma, and you can find me at Doma, DOMMAH, on Instagram or Twitter. And that's going to do it for our Hard NOC Life this week. And because Keith is not here, we're not going to go through the whole spiel of things, other shout-outs that we usually do at the end, but just to say generally.
And you can tell that Keith wasn't here because of the tangent that you allowed me to go on, so thanks.
No, I love that. Again, I snark, but I love learning all these things. I think we should do all these episodes and just see where everything leads. Because, it all matters. But yeah, so check us out, the Nerds of Color, the website, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we've got a lot of new content going, and of course comment and subscribe to this podcast and all of our family of podcasts if you like. And until next time, I'm just gonna say Blackpink is in your area, and anything else?
In your area?
Blackpink is fully in your area. And good night for now.
Comics, movies, and TV, pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the Hard NOC Life, but not the chicken kind, more like the people in